Well, hello, guys. This is Katie with Vintage and Vinyl, and I have a special guest here tonight, Jack from Jack's Trax Records, joining us. And I am so excited to talk vinyl with Jack. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight, and we're going to tell you all about vinyl and the things that you might want to know getting started into the vinyl hobby. And so you guys can ask questions in the chat. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, Louie is going to be a little bit of a nuisance because she's barking like crazy. I'll let Jack go ahead and then.
All right. So, hello, vintage community. This is a new community for me, so I'm excited to be welcomed by Katie. But my name's Jack. I have a channel called Jack's Trax Records. It's mainly about vinyl. Some of the genres I cover are hard rock, classic rock, prog rock, and other associated subgenres. Also a little bit of jazz and some new things I'm trying to introduce to the channel. But yeah, I'm very excited to be here. And yeah.
That's awesome, Jack. And I see we have Bob in the chat. Now, Bob is from one of my 50s doo-wop groups that I follow here on YouTube. So welcome, Bob. And yes, hello, Rock and Rodents. Bob always says Bob is from one of my 50s doo-wop groups that I follow here on YouTube. So welcome here. And yes, Rock and Rodents. Can you hear that, Jack? Bob always says that.
Wow. I think I'm echoing. Are you echoing? Okay.
I was echoing. Yep. Okay. I think we're okay now. So if you're not following Johnny G's Vinyl Treasure Show, you really should be. On Saturday night, a bunch of us get together on YouTube here and listen to some 50s and 60s original vinyl. A lot of rare press is really fun to hear, and it's always a great radio show. So tune into that Saturday night from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. And Bob's in the chat with us chatting vinyl, so that's always fun. And Jack, of course, if you're not subscribed to Jack, who's my guest today, please go subscribe to him. He has an awesome channel, and his link is down below. He's very knowledgeable and a lot of fun to watch his YouTube videos. And I see we have Angela coming in. Angela is the one that creates the calendar for the vintage community to keep us all on track. And don't forget, tonight, Fatbird Finds is having a vintage tin sale at 7. Kim from Oh My Vintage and Stephanie at Thrifting Adventures are having a joint sale at 6 p.m. And then Joni and Julie from AJ's Retro and Vintage and Vintagerous in Canada are having a live sale at 9 o'clock with all of the fun items from the singer, the musician, Madame Rack. So that's exciting. That's going to be fun. And I see Donna DeMama joining us. Hello, hello. So welcome, everybody. So Jack and I are here today to talk a little bit about getting started in the vinyl and the things that you might need to know when you want to get in the hobby. And I get asked a lot about different record players, and I'm sure you do too, Jack, about what kind of things you need when you get into vinyl. And we'll say hello to Mel. Mel's coming in from Finland. So hi, Mel.
And Louie.
So we'll start by just chatting a little bit about what kind of things you need when you're getting into vinyl. So Jack, what are some of your top needs when you get into vinyl?
Needs, it's quite interesting because everyone has their own opinion about people get really opinionated when it comes to these things. First of all, I think cleaning records is one of the most important things you can do. A lot of people kind of pass that step and don't think it's as important as it is. If you want your record to be as great as possible, it's really the main thing you're going to want to do. For me, I use a technique and kind of a device called the vinyl vac. This is a attachment that hooks onto a wet dry vacuum or like a shop vac, and you plug it in, and then you are going to put it on the label. There's like a hole for the label, and then it'll just suck up all of that dirt and grime that you're not going to want in those record grooves. So there's many ways of doing it. If I don't want like a wet clean and I'm just trying to look for a simple method, I'll use just a standard lint-free microfiber cloth. You can find these really anywhere, and you can actually make your own record cleaner using a bit of distilled water and some isopropyl alcohol, preferably like 98% or around there. But yeah, I know there's a lot of methods. I know you have a particular method you like using, so I don't know if you want to share about that.
I do. I really like the Spin Clean. Now, this is not the cheapest thing on the market as far as record cleaners go, There's definitely more expensive versions, but I like the spin clean. It comes with a fluid. You fill it up with a little fluid and the rest water, and then you've got your brush inside, and then these little pieces you can move, and you can clean your records that way. And then I always dry them off. I like this. Oh, Louie, my pug just wants to get on the vinyl chat. I love this Ritz microfiber dusting cloth. It's just really great and clean vinyl, and you can use this and reuse it and then throw it in the wash when you need it.
Yeah.
Which I think if you dry microfiber, it does make the microfiber not work, I've heard. So
Yeah.
you're supposed to air dry it. So I always use that to clean my records. I also keep a Audio Quest. I'm not sponsored by this brand, but I like Audio Quest. And I have an anti-static brush here just to get rid of the dust and static. And I do this before, every record. Jack, you've got something similar there, I see.
This is a essentially a ripoff of a company called Groove Washers, and this is like a felt kind of style, and these are very common, as well as the anti-static model. These are really cool, though. They work great. They basically work the same way. But the felt pads are really nice on those grooves, and you're really gonna want that. So I use this, and then also I have this stylus brush, and these you can find really cheap. I know you have a particular method that we'll get about, but this essentially you're gonna want your needle or stylus to hover over your player, and you can easily just attach this on there and get all that dust and extra dirt on your stylus that you're not really going to want. So this works really well as your method that I think showed for your stylus.
I think that works well too, Jack. I mean, all of these things that we're showing you today, it's just sort of a potato thing. It's what you like and what works for you. I find that I'm not steady enough with the little brush, and I'm afraid I'm going to damage the needle. So I really like the Onzo Zero Dust, which is basically just a jelly. Mine's pretty dirty because I need to clean it. You can actually just keep washing these. But I use this, and I just put this over the needle very gently, and it picks up all the dust and debris off that needle, because you don't want it going down into your record grooves. And then, it's got a nice little magnifier, so you can really see how dirty your needle is. But I like the Onzo Zero Dust, and then there's other jellies and brushes, but you just want to keep your stylus clean. So that's really important when you get started in the vinyl, is making sure you have a good cleaning system, because a lot of the records you're finding out there are going to be pretty grimy if you're buying used, and you don't want that getting into your system. A quick hello to Elba, who is joining us, and Bob is saying that he remembers a store that only sold record cleaning equipment and styli.
That's crazy. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. Another thing that I think is very important is sleeves, and there's many things, many different types of sleeves: outer sleeves, inner sleeves. An inner sleeve, a lot of times with originals or new records that you'll buy, which we'll get into in a second, kind of the difference between those two. They'll come with these paper sleeves that are going to attract dust and stuff like that into your record grooves. A lot of those paper shavings from those paper sleeves are going to get onto the record, and that's never a good thing. They also attract static, which is also not very good. You can get these, and these are, I think, cheaper than the original master recordings, which are very popular. But these are the Square Dual recordings and supplies. And after the stream is over, I'll probably make a comment on the video and basically leave a link to some of the products we talk about, just to make this easier. But these go for $25 for 100 of them, which is a great deal. Good. Yeah, and they work the same as MoFis. They're basically a layer of rice paper, and then there's that plastic that goes on them. I find these a lot thicker too than the MoFis, which is a good thing for me. They've been out of stock and out of print for a month now. I called the company, and they said they would be back in stock in a couple months. So that's kind of disappointing, but hopefully they'll be back sooner, and I'm just glad they aren't discontinued. So
I hope not, because that is a good deal. I pay definitely a lot more for
yeah.
mine, because I use what I think a lot of the vinyl community uses is the original master sleeves, the MoFi sleeves. And these are really nice inner sleeves. They're just expensive. I think it's like $25 for only 50 of them. And, if you're constantly buying vinyl, you go through these pretty quickly. But I love these MoFi sleeves. And it's interesting. I've noticed when you buy some, Louis, when you buy some British pressings, I think the British were a little bit ahead of us Americans in the fact that some of the British pressings already have this nice rice paper on the inside. So some of the records I've gotten, actually, I've never needed to switch over, but I like these. They prevent static. They just keep your records really nice. And if you have a nice press, you want to protect it. So I think that's important. I also use a poly sleeve. Now, mine I don't think is as thick a poly. Mine's 3-ply, or however they label the poly. But it's a nice outer sleeve for your vinyl so that it's protecting the jacket. I think that's really important too, to get some of those. And mine comes, I think I get 100 for $10 on Amazon. It's a pretty nice deal.
Yeah, I might actually have to get those sleeves, because these I used to get 100 for 25, and they were really thin, and I found a much better one. This is the vinyl style, and they're on a 100 pack, and these I think are the 3-ply again. But they're basically indestructible. Like you can't say these apart or anything like that. And these go for $16 for 100 of them. And I find that you can get much better deals on outer sleeves than you can inner sleeves, which kind of sucks, because a lot of times if you're going to a record store or you're buying from online, a lot of the times it will come with an outer sleeve. Rarely does it come with a MoFi inner sleeve. So it would be nice if the roles were switched around. But these work really well for me, and I swear by them. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just shop around for the deals, and I get the little 45s outer sleeves as well. And for some reason, I find that they're a little bit more expensive, but to me, they're worth it to protect your 45s. I've been getting you only get, I think, like 30 of them though in a pack, so they're not as plentiful as you get like 100 of these. But I really think these are important too. You want to protect your vinyl in a nice sleeve. Now, do you like the ones that have the seal? I don't, because it gets caught on the vinyl and will rip it, and I'm not a big fan of that.
Well, it's good for keeping dust out, and if you don't, I'm not crazy about I'm not playing the jackets, so it's very hard to see the dust in the record cover, and I mean, that's not what you're playing. So does it really matter that much? I don't think so. But those can be more expensive with the elastic, or not the elastic, whatever that adhesive that's on it. Yeah, whatever that is. But yeah, it's a lot of people prefer it. I don't, because it's just so annoying to get back in and out. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate them as much as the ones that they're like dual, where you have to put the jacket in one end and the inner sleeves in another end. I mean, I would much prefer the adhesive than that. I'm not a big fan of that. But
I'm not a big fan of those. But you can store your records how you'd like them to be stored. It's just finding something that's going to protect them. And I really think that the high fidelity sleeves, any type of rice paper insert, and then the nice poly-lined outer is really going to protect your record. So those are important, is to keep your records clean, and of course to have that good protection. Now, as far as storing your records, Jack, I see you've got a great example behind you. You store them all vertically, and I think that's important. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the shelves, because I think that is an important part of the collecting process. And what you don't want, and I actually see this more than I should, is your records like this. Number one, this is going to warp your jackets and or you warp your records and cause so much ring wear to the jackets. I'm sure you've all seen them, the records that have those really nasty kind of circles around the jacket. That's never good. Also, you don't really want to be pulling a bunch of records off just to find the one that you want. Yeah, that ring wear stuff is just not fun at all. So I think that's a key part to it. What you can do is what I used to do, is when you have them like this, and you can flip through them. If you take one of these IKEA shelves, flip them on the side on like a table or something, you can flip through them like you're at like a record store or something. I ran out of space for that. And I just flipped it over, and I could fit way more using this shelf rather than the one I have over there, which was only like 6 compartments. This one I think is like 12, I think, something like that. 16 actually. So 16 cubes in a shelf works really well. So the IKEA Traxes or Expedits. This is an Expedit, and it's been discontinued, but the Traxes are in stock, and they're very similar. So
Yeah, I've heard good things about the IKEA shelves. Now I have a vintage cabinet. I believe it's from the 50s, and it's solid oak, and it has 3 really nice heavy shelves in it. And I just moved my vinyl around. So actually now I have 3 shelves of vinyl, but it works really well. And I just store all my records like you would store a book on a bookshelf, just vertically like Jack has them in the back there, because you don't, like Jack mentioned, you don't want to have warping or ring wear. So never stack your vinyl in big piles. And if you're moving it or, doing something temporarily, it won't hurt it, but don't do that for weeks on end. Always store it vertically, and don't press it in too much. I think that's important, because if you press it in too much, even vertically, you're going to get some of that ring wear. So it's important to store them vertically. And I have trouble with 45s, but I recently just got a bunch of those little 45 cases, and that's been really helpful. How do you store your 45s, Jack?
as you can see back there, it's a Rush lunchbox, and we'll get into it a bit later. But Rush is my favorite band, and I try to collect as much of their stuff as possible. That's kind of like the Rush area over there. So I have like Rush playing cards and all these sorts of merchandise that the label probably or something like that, just put them out and dealt with that. But the lunchbox is a tin lunchbox, and it fits 45s. Maybe I would like to get a better solution, because I find that it's better to flip through the 45s than it is to have them like the bookshelf. You can't see the spines of them. So I much prefer to flip through them. But that's just my personal preference. Again, I want to clarify that this isn't telling you what you should do and what you shouldn't. You kind of have to find what works for you. We're giving suggestions here, and it's not a definite, but just choose what works for you, and that will be just fine.
Exactly. Whatever method, works for you. Like, I've seen tons of videos on organizing records, and everybody does something different. I don't organize mine by genre. I don't organize mine alphabetically. I just put my records with labels with artists, and pretty much all my 50s records are on the first shelf, and then I've got my 40s big band, and then on the bottom I have Elton John, Billy Joel, Jimmy Buffett, Queen, that kind of thing. So it's all up to you how you want to do it, but as long as you're keeping your records protected, at the end of the day, really, it's anything that you want to do works.
Yeah I think it's an important topic to discuss, caring for them, but not so much what's right, the way to care for them, and what's the wrong way. So I just don't want anybody to come away from this thinking that they have to do exactly what we say. It's just suggestions to throw out there if you're stuck in a place, and I hope we're doing the best job we can.
Yes, and if you're new to vinyl, hopefully this helps you kind of see what kinds of things you might need when you're getting started into the hobby. That's really what I hope, that people will learn a little bit about vinyl and enjoy this hobby of collecting, because it's quite wonderful to actually listen to records. And I see that Christina is saying that she enjoys young people getting into vinyl because it has something that digital can't replicate. I wanted to talk about that too a little bit, Jack. I think there's such a lack with digital music. It's really, there's no warmth, there's no depth to it. It's just sort of cold.
Yeah, and that's also a very interesting. There's a lot of great topics being brought up. That's a very interesting one. I think if you're getting something like Spotify, you're not going to get the greatest sound possible. If you get something that has been recorded through a analog source, there's a guy named Patrick, the Vinyl Archivist. He has a channel.
Yeah.
Great guy, and he does these things called vinyl rips, and it's his job. He records records on a machine. Don't even ask me how he does it, but he mixes them and puts them on his website. And when you download those and you stream them through a stereo, they sound great, almost the same as spinning a record. I wouldn't say that digital has to be bad all the time, and I think that's a very, very opinionated thing to say, that digital is bad all the time. Sure, I much prefer records, as you can see behind me, but if you're on the road, you're doing something not by your wherever you have your record player, yeah, listening to a compressed source is fine. If you just want to listen to the music, you're not going to sit down when you're driving, and you're not going to stop driving and just listen to the music. It's not going to happen. That's what records for me are for. I sit down and listen to the soundscapes, the things that I won't hear on a digital recording. And for me, that's the most important audio of the record. So it's a very interesting topic, and I think it is very interesting to say that digital is just all bad. So yeah, it's not all bad when you get an analog source from it, but if you're not by a record player, yeah, streaming or something like that, even CDs. If you have a CD in your car play or your CD player in your car, I think those sound much better than streaming services. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I listen to 50s on 5. I have Sirius XM. I listen to a lot of things when I'm not able to be by my record player. I mean, I can't just carry around loads of vinyl all day long. So I'm totally not against, digital music. But I do think there's something so magical about vinyl. There's just something about that analog sound. It's just incredible. And it's really fun to get into this collecting hobby of finding these vinyls and finding this music that's just amazing. I see Mary Beth is joining us from Fatbird Finds, and my mom's joining us. She says her favorite vinyls are Elton John and Three Dog Night. And we have Tiger in the house. Hello, Tiger. And Christy Garza is joining us, and lots of other great folks in the chat. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. Mel is asking us, Jack, what most people are listening to music digitally these days. What made you interested in records, and when did you start collecting records?
So I'm sure this is a question that you get a lot, Katie, and it's for me, it's a very straightforward answer. So to be honest, a lot of the music people are listening to today, there's no difference than listening to it on Apple Music or records. There's not going to be a huge difference for me. Music today is meant to be heard on an iPhone. And I think personally for me, that's kind of sad. But I was always into 70s and 80s hard rock. And for me, record collecting started with the music I was listening to. People in the 70s and 80s weren't listening to it on a computer. That's obvious. But they were listening to it on records, and I wasn't aware of that until like 3 years ago when I started really getting into it. My grandfather's collection, I inherited that, and I really loved that. It's about 100 records, and I just kept building from there. And I learned a lot about it in between, and especially with these little communities that YouTube has, that you definitely learn a lot about it. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. What made you interested in records? Really the sound for me and the music, the huge artwork, kind of this stereotypical answer. Yeah, so the artwork, the spinning thing. I always collected stuff. I always collected comic books, and I had a small guitar collection for a while and that kind of thing. So I always have collected stuff. I collected playing cards for a very long time. I still have all of them in a box in the storage room, like 500 decks of cards. So yeah, I've always collected stuff, and I used to collect CDs. So records was just that upgrade for me that was just unbelievable and completely mind blowing. And when I started collecting records, probably 3 years ago.
Yeah, I've always been a collector at heart, and I had tons of CDs, and I loved the whole experience of having that CD, putting it in the CD player, and then reading the liner notes and holding something physical, having the physical media. And then I found Frankie Valli, and I got into the 50s and 60s music, and I found my first Frankie Valli album, and I got a record player, and I heard that sound. And I just fell in love with it. There was something so dynamic and warm and amazing about it. And I started just delving in. Like Jack said, I found all these people on YouTube, and I really got interested in it. And then I've just been collecting ever since.
Yeah, and if we're talking about it like this, and the whole CD thing or the collecting thing rather than listening to it musically, people can say whatever they want, and it's probably true. To be honest, it's more fun. I mean, it's a hobby, and it's more fun. And that's, I think, the key reason we do it. Yeah, putting play on a phone or a computer, it's not as fun as taking a record out or a CD out of its jacket. It's not as fun, and I think people need to hear that, because a lot of people will get very deep into the audiophile experience, and I'm very into that as being a nerd. But it's the same. It's fun. So I think that's really the real reason, and I think a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's also the whole thrill of finding that one record you really want. I mean, for me, because I listen to a lot of 50s music, you can't just go on YouTube all the time and find that rare 50s doo-wop group. It just, they're not, I mean, some of them are listed on YouTube, but you can't always just hear that. So there's something fun about being on the hunt for that next really unique vinyl that's going to be amazing to listen to, because you can only hear it on that one vinyl or that 145. And there's something so awesome about sitting on the couch and having that record in front of you, and you're staring at the album cover and you're hearing that music come to life in front of you. It's just so different than just going to your phone and scrolling through an endless list and going, okay, I'll pick this one. I mean, it's just a whole ritual that's really fun.
Yeah, and another thing to say about that is being on the hunt. And you can ask any record collector, it's never enough. There's always that one more record that you need, and that's what's fun about it. It's a never-ending hunt, and there's people doing it in their 50s and 60s, and there's people that are 12 like me, and they're always on a hunt. So music is universal, the hunt is universal. Age has nothing to do with this. And I think the hunt is definitely a huge part in taking why we love this hobby.
Yeah, anyone can just get into vinyl, and there's something magical about crate digging. And once you start getting into crate digging and going to record stores, I mean, you'll see vinyls are kind of an equivalent to any other vintage item, from all of you guys coming from the vintage community. It's sort of like, candy or a chip. You can't just have one, you got to have more, and you're always discovering new music too. That's kind of fun, is going to a record store and finding this record and going, I think I'll try this for $2 or $3, and then maybe falling in love with it, because there's something neat about discovering new music too.
And I think the last comment, I was literally just about to mention that as vintage, the one, I don't know if it's coming up for you. Are you seeing that?
Which one?
That's true with all collectors, no matter.
No.
So I think that's so true. As a vintage community participants, I see like Coke trays behind you. It's never enough. It's never enough Coke trays. It's always that one more antique piece. So yeah, I totally agree. You guys would definitely know about that. So, and it's the same thing with it's shoes even. People are collecting that one more pair of Jordans that were limited press, and there was a misprint in the I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm kind of just making up some about shoes or like anything that can be collected. There's that one thing that you need.
the hunt is thrill, but playing the record and watching it spin and listening to that popping sound is a natural high. Yes, it's going back to something that's just so neat. And I think too with records, it takes time, and we just are so fast paced in society now that it's nice to slow down and just put on a record and listen to that experience. And I see that Bob was saying that a lot of great music never got reissued either, and that's true. So finding it on vinyl is something special.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue into what I was going to talk about. I think reissues and used records, if we want to talk about
Yeah,
that.
let's talk about that, Jack.
So I have a few examples here because it's going to be boring if I don't show anything, right? So this is a used record. This is a standard thing that you can find in a discount bin or something like that in a record store. This is the best of Jimi Hendrix, or the essential Jimi Hendrix, and it's a great compilation. And I have the same one on a reissue. So what do I think? Do I think the original sounds better or the reissue? And this is going to be the case with pretty much everything we're going to talk about. It depends. And when you get a really crappy reissue that's been digitally remastered, is not from the analog tapes, not from the original tapes, it's not. Yeah. This was master, or I think this was pressed at RTI, the Quality Record Pressing label, and it sounds great. And I love this reissue. Do I listen to this more than this one? Yeah, I listen to the reissue more. Which one was more expensive? The new one was more expensive. So was it worth it to get the new one or the original? Again, it depends. For this, I would say no, because the original still sounds fantastic. I just love kind of comparing pressings and stuff, the whole nerdy thing going on. But yeah, it's fun to do that sometimes, but I would really recommend checking Discogs. If you're not familiar, it's an online source where you can buy and sell records. You can add them into your collection or your want list or your wish list or whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, I use Discogs a lot, especially for 50s records, because I find that this is a great example, jumping with the jacks. Louie, I am so sorry, you guys. This is a hard record to find. It's on Crown. And if you look on eBay, I saw one listed for $300. And, I'm just not going to pay that price for one record. So I love Discogs. I was able to get this from a seller that just labeled this as a vintage record. I don't know that they knew a lot. And I was able to get it for $20, and I was really thrilled about picking this up. Of course, this has Wiggy Waggy Woo and Sugar Baby and so many other great songs by the Jacks. But I was thrilled, and Discogs is a great way to get to use vinyl. And sometimes I find too, for me, with 50s and 60s music, a lot of the local record stores are big into 70s and 80s right now. So I can find a lot of the stuff in the dollar bin. So don't discount that dollar bin, because you never know what you're going to find. But you always want to look, when you're looking at pressings, look for the details, check the matrix number, look at the label, see if the label is right. Check the album cover, see what number it is. You can always look that up and then find out what press you want to get on a record. And you don't have to have all original presses, but if that's something you want to collect, like for me with 50s, I try to get all original presses if I can, because I do think that they sound better, but it's all up to the listener and what they think sounds better. And I bet, Jack, with those two presses that you had, if you lined 10 people up and had them listen to it, some people might say the original's better, some folks might say the reissue's better. It's just sort of up to the person, and the listener, and music is so subjective, but you can collect what you want to collect. You can collect really inexpensive or really high-end records and presses, and some records are rare and hard to find, and some are a little bit easier. It just depends.
Yeah, and I think what I was going to say about Discogs is they sometimes have reviews. If the original sounds better than the reissue, you can always check that, or the Steve Hoffman forums, which is a common source, is a thing. But if we're talking about Discogs, a key part to buying and selling is grading. And everyone is supposed to follow the rules. VG Plus is playable, doesn't have any warps, doesn't have any pops or collects. Near mint, there's not a scuffle in the record. It's completely perfect. Mint is it's never been played. Not a lot of people want to follow this. This is a record that I would put at good plus. As you can see, there's a sticker. Everything's reversed on StreamYard. It's so complicated to point out things.
StreamYard's so weird.
So this is the there's like a sticker on here, and the jacket's nodding. Oh, I'm big. That's exciting. There's like some sort of ring wear on here, and the record's not in great condition either. And I don't know if my camera will be able to pick it up. I doubt it will. But there's not. I don't know if you can see like the dust on that or not.
I can see it a little bit.
Kind of the scratches. So this record has been cleaned with the vinyl vac, and I swear by that, as I was talking about before. But even if you see from like the jacket here, there's like, I don't know what, there's like glue or something that's on it. Actually, I would probably put this at like a good condition, and it's not the greatest record I own. This I would put at a very good condition. This is a copy of T-Rex the Slider, and the jacket is basically perfect. Looks great. It is a used record, and as you can tell, it's been played before. That's probably like a VG plus, and the record's in great condition. This is something, though, that you have to watch out for, because even if the record is completely flawless, this is always something I have to look out for. This is one of my favorite records of all time, Close to the Edge by Yes, and it's when I first got it, this was the first copy I ever got, and I refused to get rid of it because I listened to it all the time. I don't know if you can see there, but that is a nasty
warped.
And this record is flawless. There's no scratches, there's not a hair on it, and it's great. But my needle or my stylus will keep jumping if it's really that warped. And that's something that you really need to watch out for. For me, I can hold a record just like this and know it's warped from the however many times I've held a record. And I'm sure you can too. If you keep examining it, you can kind of get a feel for what it's like. It's kind of just something, it's like riding a bike. You just have to keep doing it until you get it right. So, yeah, this is a flawless record, but bad warp. So, yeah. It really all depends on, that's why I like in-store shopping. And I think that's another topic we can get into. In-store shopping is a much more pleasurable experience for me, but there's also some downsides to it. If we can segue into that, I think that would work well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I really like the ability to go into a record store and hold the record and see it. And a lot of record stores have turntables where you can actually listen to the used vinyl and see if it's something that you want to pick up. And that's nice too, if it's something you're not sure. You've heard is good, maybe you're not sure if you're going to like it. You can kind of give it a listen before you take it home, and also check its quality, because there are so many times that I've been to places that have records and I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. I found this finally. And then I'm like, oh, it has a warp or it has a really deep scratch. Yeah. So it's nice to be able to see that. And there's a great example of shopping online with Discogs. You know, for the most part, Discogs is pretty accurate in their listings, but there's a few times where they're inaccurate and you can't see that. And this is a great example of this. I ordered Remember Me by the Earls. Now, the original press is on the Old Town label, which I have here, but Woodbury is the second press of this. It came out in the 70s. And the first record I got of this, the guy listed it as an original press on Old Town, new and shrink, for $15. I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I ordered it, and what came in the mail? The Woodbury 70s press. And the guy emails me. He was very nice. And he said, well, I have a new assistant who doesn't know anything about vinyl. And, you know, there was a mix up, and that's fine. I understand.
That's probably the first misstep.
Yeah.
Not getting an assistant that knows nothing about it. That's probably the first mistake.
But I was like, yeah, and he refunded me and everything was good. But I mean, that's where shopping in store is nice because then I can actually hold this and go, yep, this is on Old Town. This is, I can check it. I can see it. I can know that it's an original. And I did eventually find an original press of that. And, everything was made right. But that's where I think in store is nice. And the whole experience of crate digging is exciting.
And you make a great point about getting to look at the record, listening to it if they have a listening station or something like that. The problem is not everybody has a record store close to them.
True.
And that can be quite challenging. And when Discogs comes in handy, the problem about Discogs, like you said, is that you're not going to be able to find, or you're not going to be able to feel the record, see if it has any scratches. You could ask for pictures, but you're never going to get the experience that you will in the record store. So crate digging is very fun. It's a really pleasurable experience, but also that rare pressing of the Old Town record that you just showed on the Old Town label, you might not be able to find that in store, and you might only be able to find that online. So that's when Discogs comes in handy. And I think there's a good time to use it and a bad time to use it. If you live not close to a record store, that's really disappointing, and I would really recommend Discogs or moving now. But yeah,
no closer to a record store.
But yeah, that's when Discogs comes in handy, and there's a good time to use it and a bad time to use it.
Well, and you don't have to pay shipping if you go to a local record store, which is nice.
Or if you're if you're going to a record store in the city, you don't have to pay parking if you get it. There's so many different, and I made a whole video about this actually.
I saw that video; it was great, Jack.
Yeah, the in-store and versus online, and there were so many points I wanted to make in that, and it's quite a long video. I think I shared it with like how to make.
Bob.
Bye. Thanks for joining. But yeah. It's such a debatable topic, and there's so many factors that come into play.
And unfortunately, our local record store closed. I'm so sad.
That is. Oh wait, don't tell me the name of it. The skateboard shop that also sells.
Young, Loud, and Snotty.
That's it, yes.
Yeah, they unfortunately closed because they just with COVID they couldn't keep their doors open. So there's no more record stores. I'm so sad. Well, there is Yesterday and Today's Records downtown, but they're a high traffic store right now, and with everything going on, I'm being a little careful. But I just, man, that was just my favorite place. So it's a little sad that they've closed down. So definitely get out and support your local record stores now because they need us more than ever. I see that Debbie is asking, Jack, if you are a guitarist.
I am, and I saw someone a while ago ask my other hobbies. I'm a guitar player. I'm not. I'm a better bassist and a drummer than a guitar player. I can play bar chords and open chords and pentatonic scales and major scales. I know I can't play Jimi Hendrix, but I'm good with the basics of guitar. But yeah, I'm a much better bass player and drummer. So yeah, I actually got to play right before COVID. I got to play a festival right before. It was like a fair festival kind of thing, and with my band, I played bass, and it was a really really cool experience. So can't wait to play more once COVID's done. But
fun. And you're in a band with your buddy Jack, right?
Yeah, and I know he's a big fan of your channel, and he talks about you a lot. And you've requested him a country song, and he's a huge country fan, and he loved that. He seeked that out on vinyl somewhere. So
Don Williams.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't listen to a ton of country, but I grew up with Don Williams, and I love good old boys like me.
Yeah.
So I know that since he likes country, I'm glad he likes that. Tiger is coming in and saying that he doesn't know much about the value of records and he just buys what looks good. So we were talking about this a little bit with the grade, but I do think it's important to check the grade and to know what you're getting before you buy it. Because some records, just even if they're really hard to find, they still aren't going to sound good if they're like in G plus shape.
Well, the value and you really want to look on sources such as Discogs, and you don't want to go on what's going for sale. You want to look at what's sold, because people can be asking $250 for a copy of Michael Jackson's Thriller. They're not. But you really want to look at median prices and that kind of thing. I think if you have a record store next to you, if you have a good record store, the owner will be fairly honest with you and say, yeah, this is worth it. This isn't. And a lot of people are really, really good with that. And I'm so thankful for those people that really helped me out. But the value, I think the record prices have really crept up in the last year, mainly because we're all stuck at home and we don't have anything to do. So vinyl collecting has gotten very popular, and the community is expanding. People are building their collections back that they used to collect earlier in their life. So yeah, the value is slowly creeping up, especially for reissues. If you're getting a reissue, the most I will pay is $30 if it's something I really want. But the average price for a new record for me is $20. And I think that has now become $25 and may become $35. So, and it's very sad. And I hope that kind of decreases because, again, that could also be keeping people from collecting. And that's never a good thing. Used records, on the other hand, it all depends. Originals, people can be crazy over, and they can price them very overpriced. But again, a lot of these second pressings don't sound bad because they're a couple months after. Maybe if you're getting like a jazz record, like I'm about to show this record called The Sidewinder. If you get a second press of that, it's going to sound awful. I've compared a lot of those early jazz records in 50s, and I'm sure you know a lot about this because you're a huge 50s fan. And some of these, a lot of the second pressings do sound so. But yeah, I think that kind of explains a little bit of the value. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, I'll expand a little more about that.
With 50s music, I do think that second presses sometimes don't sound all that great. Personally, when they get reissued on like the collector's series or they're just not the best. So I personally look for original presses, and it's also kind of the thrill of the hunt. It's like, oh, wow, I have this original press from 1953. That's really cool. Like I just got the Skyliners album on Calico. It's an original press, and this one's fairly tough to find. But I think, this is a great example of value is where condition is everything. Because you can see mint versions of this where the vinyl's in almost perfect shape going for several $100s. But then if you go down a couple of grades, I got that for, I think, $15 plus shipping. So, it's the condition also that matters on value and what press it is. And sometimes I think that if there's things that were mass produced, there might be hundreds of like Queen albums out there of a particular Queen press. And because Queen's really popular right now, you'll see certain record stores pricing. I saw a Queen Night at the Opera go for $70 of our local stores. And I'm like, dude, you can get that online for much cheaper. I mean, so you do have to do a little bit of research. Like Jack was saying, go to the sold, see, try to figure out what the going values, because the prices can be really all over the place, but it's all up to what you feel comfortable paying, what condition is, because if you're getting something that's not in great condition, you typically will pay less unless it's just something so incredibly rare. And I think the most that I have ever spent, and this was a grail record for me, is I got Please Mr. Postman by the Marvelettes. If you know, that is incredibly hard to find. And I paid close to $90 for that record. I mean, I have never spent more on a record, but that one was something I really wanted. And you just don't see it even at $90. Like that was a good price for it.
That's a great price for that record.
Yeah. So, it just depends.
Yeah, it really does. And we were kind of getting into the sound. If you're more and more, you're seeing people or labels or pressing plants, they're coming out with audiophile series. Analog Productions is doing a new series called the UHQR, which is pressed on a super vinyl. And of course, the official Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs, they're very popular, or their new one steps are very common. Those, I don't know. I've listened to quite a few of them. I own some of them. But there is a series out called the Blue Note Classic Series, and these records sound awesome.
I've heard.
So great. And I bought, what did I buy this for? $25. And it's out of print now, I believe, the Sidewinder. But if you can find it at your local record store or anything like that, I couldn't recommend it more. But these mobile fidelity records sound amazing. And I paid $50 for the Dire Straits self-titled record.
Ooh, that's great.
And it sounds so good. But another thing is, if you're listening to it on a cheaper turntable, like the Audio-Technica LP60 or something along those lines, you don't want a record that costs the same thing as your turntable. And it's not going to sound as great as it possibly can. And it's, quite frankly, it's not worth the money. So I always recommend these if you have a nice intermediate turntable, like a DJ turntable or a vintage model or something like that, and this sounds great. So yeah, if you're looking to get into the MoFi stuff, I couldn't recommend it more. But yeah, I don't know what you think about that kind of stuff.
I've heard great things about MoFi, and all the Blue Note reissues I've heard are just incredible. But I certainly think at the end of the day, it's about the music. And so if you're enjoying the music, that's what matters. You know, it's cool to say, oh, look, I have this original press, but if you find a press and it sounds good and you're happy with the price you paid and you like it, then that's all that matters. I mean, I have a fantastic Sam Cooke compilation album, and it's one of my very favorite in my whole collection. It just sounds good. I didn't pay much for it. I think it was like $8 online. I mean, and it's got 4 discs in it, discs, like I'm talking CDs, 4 vinyls, and it's just fantastic. So, I mean, sometimes it's the small things that can really wow you, and, you know, just enjoying the music at the end of the day, that's what it's really about.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think people take it a little too seriously sometimes, and I might have been over there with like the MoFi sound.
No, but I've heard though. Tell me.
Yeah, if you're looking at some YouTube channels that can be very discouraging about this kind of stuff, and be like, no, don't get these second pressings of that 70s record. If you think it sounds good, it matters. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks about that. If it sounds good to your ears, what does anyone else care? You know, it's the same thing. Yeah. I mean, it's really about the music, and I really couldn't agree more with that statement.
And sound is so subjective. I mean, you could line 5 people up, 10 people up, heck, 20 people up, and they'd all say something different. I think it does matter what your ears are hearing and what you like. And speaking of sound, I think it's a good segue to talk a little bit about getting started into turntables and audio equipment, and what kind of things you start with when you are getting into vinyl, because there's just so much out there that it can be a little overwhelming at first. Like, oh, what do you need? I mean, when I first started, I thought, okay, you need a turntable. That's all I knew. I didn't know any more, you know. So of course we all started somewhere, and I had the Crosley, and then I moved away from that when I started going, why are my records sounding like there's a tin can rolling around?
That's what they were doing, by the way. There is a tin can. You would probably have more luck playing a record on a toaster than you would on a Crosley. But that's another thing. If you get a Crosley and you don't want to spend any more, that's totally fine. If you're enjoying it, that's great. Just know that the record's on the sound is good. And that's what you want to know. I don't want someone getting a Crosley and then saying, what are these vinyl freaks talking about? This sounds not as well as my Spotify. And you're actually right. If you're playing them on a Crosley, they're not going to – Spotify is going to sound better. But if you're enjoying it and you like the physical format and that's all you can get at the time, yeah, go for it. What I recommend is saving a bit up. So I don't think it made sense. So saving up a bit for a higher quality turntable, of course. I would totally recommend something like the Audio-Technica LP 120 or even a vintage model, which we can get into in a second. But yeah, that's what it's all about. I mean, if you love it, great. But just know if you're getting a lower end turntable like a Suitcase Player or a Victrola, I think that's another brand that sells those.
All-in-ones.
Yeah, it's not going to sound as great as it possibly can.
I mean, and they look cool. I mean, they look vintage and they're cute and they're cool, but they're just not going to sound as great. But no shame if you have one. It's just that I think starting with a player that you can upgrade if you want to get into the hobby as you go on, starting like Jack said, the Audio Technica is really great. I have a Fluence, and I have a little higher end Fluence than they make, different ones, but the Fluence RT81 is a really affordable turntable, about $100, and it's got a counterweight, and you can upgrade the cartridge as you go along, and you can do things that will improve your sound if you really want to get into it. But it's got a nice solid plinth that has all the things that you would want in a really nice turntable without the expensive price tag.
Yeah, and that's just the turntables, and I think that's another thing to get into with cartridges. I have an Ortofon Black on mine, and it sounds great. Sounds really, really good, and it's a quiet cartridge. But it sounds great. And I know the 2M Reds people love, and the 2M Blues I would recommend. I've heard those, and those are like $30 more, I think, than the Red, and that sounds great. But the Ortofon Black sounds awesome. And I play that on a Project Debut Carbon turntable. It's a quieter one, and it's really all about experimenting for me. I have a Project Debut Carbon over there with a black Ortofon on it, and I also use a Gemini XL500 with a cartridge called a Trackmaster, and it's more for DJs, but you can like scratch on it and all that. I don't mess with that because I get very nervous.
I would be afraid.
Yeah, but you can if you really want to do that. But yeah, it's a great cartridge. It's very, very loud, and it's a direct drive. The Gemini and the Project Debut Carbon is belt driven.
Yeah, I have a belt-driven turntable, and basically I find that they're a little bit quieter. You don't get that hum from the motor as you would as a direct drive, so I personally really like the belt-driven turntables, but it's all up to what you would like. And I think just thinking when you're starting out in vinyl, kind of thinking ahead to what in the future, if I really get into this, what I might want to do or upgrade. And I think if you invest a little bit up front into a good model that's going to last you a long time, and it's something that you can upgrade, like Jack was talking about, you can do so much to curate your sound, whether it's changing the cartridge or even the turntable mats. I think those make a difference, or upgrading audio cables, or so if you get a turntable where you can do those kinds of things, I think down the road you'll be much happier than having to rebuy another turntable, and get rid of your original one. And I think just starting with a good turntable and a decent pair of speakers, you'll really, really enjoy vinyl, and you'll understand why all of us are a little bit nuts about it.
Yeah. So I just saw the comment. Can you include the info about the equipment you recommend in your comments? Yeah. So I'll go over that right now. So the two turntables I have Gemini XL500 and the Project Debut Carbon. So with the Ortofon Black cartridge and the Trackmaster cartridge, my receiver is a Technics. Don't you have a Marantz?
Oh, I wish.
Okay, I thought you did. I thought you did. And I was about to be like, oh, I wish I had one. Yeah, I have a
in my area keeps selling before I can get one on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. So the Technics are great, and I haven't had the greatest experience with turntables. So yeah, I love the Technics receiver. Also, for speakers, I use floor standing speakers, and they are floor standing, and they're so loud. I use these for my monitor now. The Sonos. I don't even know how to say it. They're like little bookshelf speakers. Those work great too. But I just prefer shaking my records.
I have a Fluence RT83, and then I have the Ortofon 2M Red cartridge. And then I went to my local record store, and they have a whole section of used speakers. And I got a pair of clip speakers and and then a clip subwoofer with that. So I got the whole bundle. And so that's what I've got. Now, I don't have a receiver yet, so I use a built-in preamp, and then my speakers are powered. So basically, if you're going to get started in the vinyl, you need a turntable, a preamp, a receiver, and then your speakers. But if you have a turntable, it has a built-in preamplifier, and then you have speakers that are powered versus passive, then you can basically make the setup work without having that extra equipment.
I have always thought that a separate preamp will sound better. That's just me. I have a pile preamp, so that I don't know the model number. I don't pay attention to these things. Almost like I'm supposed to know what I'm talking about, right? So it's a pile preamp. Yeah, so it's a pile preamp, and I think that sounds better than my built-in preamp anyway. And then the speakers are passive, so I have the receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of room because I live in a 1-bedroom, so I don't have room for tons of audio equipment. I wish I had a whole record room like you, Jack. I'm a little jealous, but I don't have the room. So I went the route when I first started with the everything built in. And the powered speakers, because it was just a little easier for me with my space constraints. But I would love, I'm on the hunt to you can get the receiver, and I would love to find that Marantz. I'm still looking.
Yeah, so about the space thing, this is I get one side of my basement, my sister gets the other. My side's way cooler, not to brag right now.
Your side is way cooler.
But I shove all my instruments. I used to do magic before all of this. That's in one corner. The records are back there. The best way to get your record room to be satisfied as possible is to cram it all in a tiny space. And you don't want it to feel too cramped. You want to be able to move around. My desk is right here where I film all the videos and stuff like that. And yeah, so... And these like cool accessory things, they're always fun, like posters and artwork. I really get into these, like they're called LED lights, and I just turn those at whatever color I want. And I learned that you're supposed to put them on the sides, not how I have them. But who cares anyway? So yeah, these are fun, and I have like a little. I won't be able to get the camera back up to where it was. I have like a live on air sign up there. So yeah, all that stuff is fun too. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I collect record needle tins from old Victrolas, and I have record dusting brushes from the 40s, and so I have other things near my turntable that's kind of audio related and fun. But I think starting with something that's just good and good speakers, I think really do make a big difference. When I first started, I got a pair of powered speakers from Best Buy. They're the Insignia brand. And I have to say, those sounded pretty good. They came with a remote. They had the wood cabinets, the removable dust covers. And I have to say, for I think when they're on sale, you can get them for like $50, but they're originally $100. That's a really good speaker, in my opinion, to start with. And you can get them powered. They're bookshelf speakers. So if you want to pair them with a turntable that has a built-in preamp, that's a very cost-friendly way to go when you get started into vinyl. But I really like the whole separate preamp. I do think that sounds way better.
Yeah. Yeah, again, personal preference thing. It's all really personal preference. And I'll look at the list here.
I'm so sorry that Louie is barking. I can't help it.
That's okay. Another thing I wanted to mention is buy what you love. Don't let anybody tell you what you should buy. And when I first started in the hobby, everyone told me about punk, and I have never been a punk person. I love the Ramones for some reason, but anything like very like hardcore underground punk. I love underground like prog and psych and that kind of stuff. Punk, I've never gotten into. And I've heard all these people telling me, "Oh, listen to this punk artist and listen to." Like, I don't really want to spend my money on that. I won't listen to it. Buy what you love. That's not to say don't listen to suggestions. Someone suggests you something and recommends you something, give it a listen. You'll discover something way new. I discovered one of my favorite artists, Billy Idol, by a separate channel who talked about him all the time, and that's how I got introduced to him. And he's one of my favorite artists now. Rebel Yell is like in my top 10 records. So again, that's the thing. Don't let anybody tell you what to buy and what not to buy, but also don't be a brat about it. Say only my music is the right music and not to get exposed by other musical genres or recommendations. It's just, I think it's a balance between those two.
Yep, I think so. I mean, there's so much to discover in this hobby that's just amazing, and so many different types of music and so many different types of sound that you can get from various equipment. So don't let the people shame you for anything that you're doing. Just enjoy your records and enjoy your equipment and just enjoy the whole collecting aspect, but also be open-minded, like Jack was saying, because I've discovered some really good music that I was not used to by someone just saying, hey, give this a listen and try it, because you never know, you might really like it. So, and don't also, I just wanted to bring this up because I think it's important. When I first started, I found a lot of people online in general that were, hi-fi audio file type people, and those are wonderful resources with lots of good information. But sometimes as a new person to the vinyl hobby, you can feel a little bit like, oh, my setup isn't as good, or oh, I don't have these $5,000 cables, so my system must sound horrible. And no, that's not, and Jack, you can talk a little bit more about that, but just don't feel shame.
Yeah. Cables. I've never been into that. Coiled cables are the only way to listen to vinyl. I don't know what brand my cables are. I don't know what you even call them, okay? For me, do cables really make a difference? Maybe, not to my ears. Yeah. Cables have never been a thing for me. So, yeah, I mean, I've never experimented with that, but whatever your system sounds like, it sounds good to your ears, don't listen to what. Make upgrades if you think it's necessary.
Yeah.
But if you're happy with it, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I'm always, playing around with things, and I've done that with record mats. I went on a little kick for a while where it's like, well, let me see. I've got a rubber mat, a cork mat. I mean, I tried a bunch, and I've landed on the acrylic mat, which I do think cuts down on the static and sounds really good, but it's all your ears. Don't feel like you have to have like a $34,000 hi-fi system to enjoy vinyl. Just get out there, get a turntable, and just start collecting vinyl and enjoying it, because that, at the end of the day, it's about the music.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So Jack will be back with us at some point soon, sharing his Rush collection on my weekly show and tell series. So I'm excited about that. And if you guys have any questions for us and you're wondering about vinyl, you can always leave it in the chat and we'll be glad to answer it. I see Mel saying, is there something wrong with your mic? Oh no, your voice keeps disappearing. I'm not experiencing that.
I didn't think so either, because I just got this new microphone for the purpose of this. I'm hoping my voice isn't disappearing. Hopefully no one else is experiencing that. I'm so sorry. I don't really know.
It's okay on my end, so I don't know what the issue is. But lately, I think things have been really kind of funky with YouTube and StreamYard, in my opinion. Yeah. I think it's got to be something with the platform.
Yeah,
Jack, did you have anything else that you wanted to bring up and talk about today?
I think the last thing we could talk about is more fun-spirited than perhaps what we've been talking about so far. Record Store Day, and it's an annual kind of it's annual kind of thing that people celebrate. This year it happened 3 times a year, and this year or in past years, it's only been one. This is a record from Record Store Day. It's Motorhead's The Ace of Spades. The limited edition, fun little colored vinyl 12-inch, and I thought I'd show that. But if you're getting into the hobby a lot and you think it's fun, go to Record Store Day. It's a great experience. You get all sorts of titles from all sorts of genres. You have cool color pressings and limited edition. I have my influence, Soundgarden, who invented Record Store Day, and I do a little annual thing with him on my YouTube channel about Record Store Day. And I showed off some of the releases and what will be featured in that day. So it's really cool to talk to him, though, and talk about how him and Michael, who's the co-founder of it, started Record Store Day. And it's a really, really cool thing to learn about. And I guess if anyone is more interested in that, I can expand on the whole gist of it.
Record Store Day is awesome, and I'm going to have to figure out what store I'm going to this year because Young, Loud, and Snotty closed. But it was so fun, and Jack was so sweet. He actually found a record I wanted from Record Store Day. I really, really wanted that Little Richard press, and I was so excited to get it. That was did you get a chance to listen to that?
I didn't. I left it sealed.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It's not it wouldn't scream Little Richard if you heard it. You'd be like, what is this? At one point there was barnyard animals making noises on one of the tracks. So it was interesting, but there's so many cool presses and limited release things that come out, and it's a great way to support your local record store, get out with your fellow vinyl friends and chat music while you're waiting in line. It's just a lot of fun. Now, have you ever camped out overnight, Jack?
No, that has not been. Maybe I'll do that one day, but if you're going to somewhere that isn't Amoeba, then you're not going to need a reason to do that. But yeah, I think that's a little.
Yeah, our local record store, the one that's downtown, that's still open, they will have a line of 30 people at 6 p.m. the night before, camped out in tents outside. It is wild. So trying to find vinyl over there, it's like good luck, because the minute they open at 8 a.m., pretty much anything that people want, if they only get one or two of them in, it's gone.
Yeah, I like to describe it as a Walmart on Black Friday or Macy's, where people are punching each other in the face to get that microwave for 20% off. So it's like the same thing almost. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. I hope my audio isn't that bad.
I hope it's okay. It's sounding all right on my end.
Yeah, I turned it up a bit. I think it's probably my Wi-Fi, to be honest.
But I can still hear what you're saying, so hopefully that posts and comes through. And yeah, the Record Store Day is fun. I just really enjoy the whole experience of it, and it's fun to see some of the same people. When I was going to Young, Loud, and Snotty, I'd see the same people year after year, all of us at the same time, and it was fun. In fact, one of the guys that shows up there, he collects swatches like I do, so we'd always talk swatches and records while we were waiting, which was fun. So there's a lot of, okay, it's fine now. That's good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so Record Store Day is a fun way to get into vinyl too, I think. And there's so many fun colors and different releases, as you talked about, Jack, that you can get now. And that Ace of Spades record you got is really cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool one. And there's Shaped Records and 45. It's for everyone. And it's a really fun thing to do.
It is. It's just so much fun. So this has been great chatting with you, Jack. If you guys have anything else that you want to know about vinyl, you can always reach out to us. And you're on Instagram as well, so I'm sure Jack can always answer some DM questions. And it was just so fun chatting with you. And I hope that this helped get everyone interested in vinyl that didn't know much about it or just needed help getting started. And if you ever have questions, like I said, we're always around on Instagram or through our channels. Jack has a fabulous YouTube channel. So guys, if you are not subscribed, you really need to be. Jack is so knowledgeable and just a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
So we'll do more of these soon. Jack will be back coming up in a couple of weeks for my show and tell, as I mentioned, doing a Rush record. So I'm excited about That's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you all for joining us. It is 6:15, so don't forget to Kim at Oh My Vintage and Stephanie at Thrifting Adventures is having a sale at 6 p.m., a live vintage sale. Joni from Vintagerous and Julie from AJ's Retro and Vintage, they're both in Canada, will be having the sale at 9:00 p.m. Eastern. That's coming up. And then also Fatbird Finds is having a dedicated tin sale at 7 p.m. So that's for all of our vintage folks that want to do
You guys
that.
are very on top of things over here.
We have a lot of sales every day in the vintage community. Also, if you want to shop records, Adam at Record Crate, if you're not familiar with him on YouTube, he always has record sales every night. So I'm sure there's one coming up soon. So it has been lots of fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next time. And thanks so much, Jack, for coming on today.
Thank you. It's been awesome. Thanks, everyone.
All right. As always, stay in, stay safe, and binge YouTube. Bye-bye now.